On a cool autumn day in 1971, in the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan, known as an intellectual hub, small antique bookstore was founded by two brothers, Tom and Louis Borders. This modest shop would, in the following years, become the foundation of an empire that would revolutionize the history of global retail. At that time, the book trade seemed like a fairly monotonous and uninteresting field, but the Borders brothers decided to approach this business differently. By applying their technological knowledge, they brought an entirely new breadth to the sector. In particular, the inventory management system created by Louis Borders, based on the advanced technology of the era, was remarkable. Through this system, it was possible to predict which book would sell better in which store and on which shelf using mathematical models. Thanks to this unique technology, Borders quickly began to stand out among its competitors and transformed from a small family business into a global brand in a short period. By the early 1990s, Borders was already the primary representative of the giant store concept known worldwide as the superstore. These stores were not just traditional commercial properties intended for book sales. They had also become special spaces where people gladly spent their time. People would sit in comfortable armchairs in these stores, traveling to new worlds, sensing the harmony of the scent of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the aroma of aged paper. In 1992, a large retail company called Kmart acquired Borders, providing it with massive financial capital, which accelerated the company's expansion process. Every new Borders store opened became a cultural symbol of that city, hosting events such as author meetings, book signings, and live jazz music. However, this brilliant era simultaneously brought its own negative consequences. During the rapid and sometimes arrogant growth process, weaknesses in management began to cast a shadow over the company's future. Due to their successes, the leadership believed their model would be immutable, and this led to a loss of their sense of reality. The late 1990s was a period when the sparks of the digital revolution were appearing. Yet Borders continued to prioritize the traditional physical store model. In 2001, instead of independently developing its own online sales platform, the company made the decision to hand over all its internet operations to Amazon. This decision was later evaluated in business history as strategic suicide. This step meant strengthening Amazon by handing over Borders' loyal customer base and precious data to them. As a result, Borders' digital identity vanished completely, and the company remained outside the Internet, the most important potential platform. The leadership believed the Internet was merely a temporary fad and that physical stores would always prevail. But they were wrong. The Internet was a new way of life and a vital necessity for those who wanted to stay ahead in the competition. At the same time, the internal structure of the stores could not keep pace with the demands of the modern era. A large portion of the store space was dedicated to CD and DVD sales. Although income from the music and film departments once accounted for 20 to 25% of revenue, with Apple's introduction of the iTunes platform and the rapid popularity of digital streaming services, these sections quickly turned into empty and useless warehouses. Borders, however, continued to pay high rents for these large spaces, while unsold and depreciated plastic discs piled up in the displays. In the mid-2000s, the process of collapse gained unstoppable momentum. The management turmoil within the company, frequently changing CEOs and their strategies, which did not internalize the book industry, brought different approaches, but ultimately disrupted Borders' functionality. The stores that once boasted an intellectual atmosphere were now overflowing with toys, household products, and cheap souvenirs. This change completely damaged the brand's image as a sanctuary for book lovers. Customers could no longer feel the uniqueness inherent to this land. When Amazon launched the Kindle in 2007, sparking the e-book revolution, the main competitor Barnes & Noble responded quickly with the Nook device. However, Borders was extremely late in reacting to these advancements. They only attempted to participate among digital reader products with Kobo in 2010, but by then, too much had been lost. Market share had slipped away, and customer loyalty was shattered. Furthermore, the long-term lease agreements signed in the 1990s, which created an additional financial burden for 15 to 20 years, exacerbated the company's difficulties. Sales were declining, but costs remained unchanged. In 2008, the global economic crisis dealt the final blow to this giant that was already on the brink of collapse. Banks froze credits, debts exceeded $1 billion, and suppliers stopped delivering goods without receiving payment. Consequently, as the shelves of the bookstores emptied, it was as if their soul was departing as well. In February 2011, the Borders Company officially declared bankruptcy. While this news garnered great interest in the global economy, for those who knew the internal situation well, it was an inevitable end that had been expected for a long time. In July, the liquidation process began, and all of the approximately 400 stores operating around the world were closed. As a result, more than 10,000 people lost their jobs, and millions of books were sold at meager prices, vanishing from the shelves. The closure of these stores was not just the bankruptcy of a company. It was accepted as the end of a bookstore culture. The vacant giant buildings, the marks of torn-off logos on the walls, and the silent corridors conjured a sorrowful scene of that era. Borders, though a brand born of the power of technology, was destroyed by technology itself because it could not keep up with the changes that very technology brought. The history of Borders Group remains a sharp and significant case study for the modern business world. This collapse shows that being the biggest does not yet mean being the strongest. Real strength is tied to the ability to adapt flexibly to changing conditions. Borders was the leader of the book industry, but over time, they focused more on valuing their past successes than on meeting the needs of their customers. By strategically transferring one of their most vital advantages, online contact with the customer, to their rivals, they essentially gave up their competitive ability on purpose. Any structure that shies away from innovation does not predict the future or fails to take it into account, no matter how large it may be, cannot escape decline and eventual collapse. Currently, although other stores fill the empty spaces left by Borders, the walls of those buildings seem to whisper a truth. Those who do not build the future become captives of the past. The story of Borders' fall is one of the most prominent examples emphasizing the necessity of change, and it will be remembered in history this way. This lesson provides a vital message for every entrepreneur and company, especially in today's rapidly digitalizing world. The only unchanging truth remains change itself.